9:18. My man, with me tonight, Nick Bryant, author of the book, The Franklin Scandal, the story of power brokers, child abuse, and betrayal. Nick, we look back on the scandal here involving Jerry Sandusky, and it seems as though there are so many people that had to have known something. I mean, maybe not the particulars, maybe not all the details, but knew something that should have had suspicions, and then, for whatever reason, ignored those suspicions, decided not to act on them. Maybe you had more information and just, actually did know and still chose to do nothing. Based upon what your research and investigating for your story and what you covered, why is that?
Well, there's one of two explanations, and they're both negative, but one is, you can determine which is more negative. The first explanation is to save face. Penn State covered this up because certainly Penn State, the administration of Penn State knew this in 1998, and certainly by 2002 they knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Did they let Jerry Sandusky, and in 1998 when the first allegations or the initial allegations were made, he retired the next year. And so the question that one has to ask themselves, and Penn State continued. I mean, they gave him $143,000 severance package, and then they're giving him $58,000 a year. And in addition to that, Penn State and 16 of its affiliates are pouring thousands of dollars into Sandusky's Second Mile Foundation. So the question that you have to ask, did Penn State do this to save face, or and this might even be a little more ominous.
Mm-hmm.
Does Jerry Sandusky have leverage over someone?
Let me ask you this. Looking at this and trying to put the best spin possible for Penn State on this, they have claims of sexual abuse against Jerry Sandusky. They recognize that they don't have enough to be able to prove it. You have a DA back in 98 saying that he is not going to go forward with charges. But the university, even with that in mind, is wanting to distance itself from him. And so they do what they believe is within their power to do, to an extent, and compel him to retire. And that's the negotiated thing where if you can't get a DA to present charges, I'm not quite sure what is realistic for a university to then claim. I mean, can you go out and tell people that we're letting him go because he's been accused, but there have been no charges even filed?
Well, here's the problem with that, Robert.
Okay,
let's say that they decided we're going to save face, and we're going to give...
Well, not even save face, but just do the only thing that they realistically could do. I mean, what more could they do if the DA wasn't willing to file charges?
But Joe Paterno had tremendous amount of power, and he had a tremendous amount of power at Penn State, and actually in the state of Pennsylvania. So if I was Joe Paterno and I knew that Jerry Sandusky molested Kidder, these allegations were on the table,
mm-hmm.
Why would I sign off on Penn State and a number of its affiliates continuing to pour thousands of dollars into Jerry Sandusky's organization?
Because you have no proof.
2010.
Because you have no proof.
Well, there was enough proof out there.
No, there was not enough proof for even a criminal charge.
Well, that's debatable.
The DA in 98 wouldn't file charges. I mean, if you don't, the point that I'm making here, Nick, is that people throw around the word "knew" as though there were clearly knowable facts that were actionable. And there's a big difference between having suspicions, having allegations, and then having documentable proof that you can present in a court of law to get a conviction.
Jerry Sandusky basically admitted to a victim's wife or a victim's mother in 1998 that he had molested her kid, and the police recorded that.
Right. And they still decided to do nothing.
What more of a smoking gun do you need?
I don't know.
You've got someone confessing to molest someone's kid.
Nick, I'm with you, but what do you expect a university to do if the prosecutor doesn't do anything about it?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we can't ask the prosecutor why he didn't prosecute. But then there was the 2002 incident,
Right.
and that certainly, I mean, Paterno knew about that, and others knew about that. So my question is, why does Joe Paterno? I mean, this went right to Joe Paterno eventually. Why doesn't Joe Paterno say, okay, that's it, we're cutting Jerry Sandusky off? He does not get another dime from Penn State or any of its affiliates. I mean, why wasn't, in the very least...
My goodness, Governor Corbett in a press conference yesterday still wanted to give Second Mile $3 million. The governor, who investigated for almost a year plus in the grand jury of charges against Jerry Sandusky, laments not giving Second Mile the $3 million, wants to see this organization continue, and makes a claim that he would have given the money to them if it wasn't for the fact that the grand jury presentment ultimately came down, even knowing what he knew involved in all of this.
Well, that gets back to my question. I mean, is this been done to save face, or does Jerry Sandusky have leverage on someone? And unfortunately, in the case, certainly in the case in Nebraska, the pedophiles there had a lot of political leverage. And actually some of the kids named some very powerful people in that state as pedophiles. And
so there were so many people who were involved that everybody was covering up for themselves or covering for each other.
That was a very mind-boggling case, and where you had the kids, the victims that came forward, who were just demolished by law enforcement and also by the press.
Right.
They accused some very powerful people in the state of Nebraska and elsewhere of being perpetrators. And in Florida, you have a similar situation where you have Jeffrey Epstein molesting girls or sexually exploiting girls, and yet feds step in to do something about it, and they do nothing. So, I mean, in these situations, you wonder, I mean, do these people have leverage? In the Nebraska pedophile network, I mean, I definitely proved that people were leveraged. I don't know in the Jeffrey Epstein what happened there in Palm Beach,
right.
and we're still learning.
Well, there are a lot of people who have concerns that if there's that much involvement, if it runs that deep, if it's that widely spread, that the state really isn't capable of investigating its own highest-ranking officials, that quite possibly you need to have somebody else come in, the feds, in order to address this. Nick Bryant, author of the book The Franklin Scandal, a story of power brokers, child abuse, and betrayal, available at bookstores everywhere. Nick, thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert.
Have yourself a good night.